What's up, guys? Welcome to today's group call. And I'm going to be running over some strategies that we can be using in order to eat out without guilt, without confusion, without overwhelm, without doubt, knowing that we can continue to drop body fat. Now, being part of my coaching program, one of the key things that I'm teaching you guys is the tools to be able to take over your own results and your own progress ongoing for the rest of your life. And I take pride in that. And it was something that I never understood until I did, until I understood the strategies, the education, the information that was required in order for me to be comfortable knowing that I didn't have to doubt whether the process I'm using is actually going to work. I used to get so stressed about whether or not I was doing the right thing with my nutrition. I would feel bad about eating certain things. I would look at food as good or bad, and I would avoid certain foods or certain meals because it would make me feel guilty. And so that's not a great way to live. That sucks, right? And it creates a lot of this unnecessary pressure, this unnecessary anxiety and overwhelm and doubt, which I don't want you guys to have. And so the whole purpose of today's call is realistically giving you guys some strategies to use when you are going to be eating out or when you are going to be tracking meals that aren't necessarily seen as healthy or they're unplanned or not untracked, but when you have social stuff on. Because here's the thing, me giving you guys a meal plan or telling you to stick to this strict regimen that is just impossible to stick to long term, in my opinion, is just not necessary. It's never going to work, right? And so, with our approach to nutrition, it should be something that we're more than comfortable to follow ongoing. And that leads to long term adherence, long term sustainability, and most importantly, long term results. And so, a few things I want to cover before we get stuck into this is that yes, we are tracking our calorie intake. Yes, we can realistically eat whatever we want on a daily basis and still see consistent body composition results as long as we stick to our calorie targets and our protein minimum. What I also want to add is that it is important more often than not to think of your body like a sports car. How can we provide our body with the highest quality fuel that's not only going to allow us to reach our calorie target and our protein minimum, but more importantly, make us feel good and take care of our health and well-being? Right? We're doing this obviously to look great, to feel great. At the same time, we want to be as healthy as we can possibly be. And so I typically stick to the rule of 80 to 90% of my intake should come from nutrient dense whole food options, whereas that last 10 to 20% can be used for things that may not necessarily be seen as healthy. Now, if you guys are early on in the journey, I know some of you in the group at the moment are quite early in your journey in terms of tracking your intake. It can be extremely beneficial just to use MyFitnessPal and create a bit of a meal plan which is personal to you, just to take away some of that decision fatigue. And you're not sitting on MyFitnessPal all day, every day, trying to see whether or not this is going to fit within your intake. We think of our calorie target like a financial budget. In my opinion, that's the most effective way. How do I want to spend my budget today? What's going to suit me and my lifestyle best to make sure that by the end of the day, I'm as close as possible to my calorie target. I've met my protein intake and I'm not being fixated on food all day. Now, for some of you, including myself, I can wake up and kind of just track as I go throughout the day. And I'm completely fine with that now. But keep in mind, I've had 12 plus years of experience doing this. And so early days, or if you live a busy lifestyle, it can be really beneficial just to create your own meal plan based off the calories that I've set for you or whoever set them for you and your protein minimum to reduce the amount of decisions you need to make for the day. And so if we're going to be doing that, a great way to incorporate some of the things you may crave or allow for some more flexibility can be just to allow for one meal or X amount of calories to be left over to have whatever throughout the day. So you've got some variety. Keeping in mind, we can just change our meal plan whenever we really want to. In the end of the day, the meal plan is just for convenience. It allows us to prep our meals. It allows us to make less decisions and also just to have some peace of mind of not having to be on MyFitnessPal all the time. But the main purpose of today's call, as I mentioned, is to run you guys through the strategies we can use in order to maintain a social life, in order to enjoy holidays, in order to have flexibility if we want to go out, and have a meal that was unplanned, if we forgot to prep our meals, or if we're just having a fucking shit day. It happens from time to time, right? Like we're only human. And by no means am I sitting here saying that I am perfect with my nutrition every day and you guys don't need to be either. But there's times where you might have just had a fucking big week or a big day, and you get to the end of the day and you're just craving certain foods, and it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not asking you guys to be perfect. I'm asking you to be consistent for me and to understand these fundamentals to make the whole process and journey a hell of a lot easier for you. That's the whole purpose of this, right? And so we're going to run through a few strategies today. And the first thing I wanted to say before we go through these is that, in my opinion and my experience, it's always most beneficial when you are going to be eating out, or having a day where you're kind of a little looser with your calories than what you typically would be, is that if you know what, or at least roughly what you're going to be eating, is to make it the first thing you track for the day. So let's say, like, today's Saturday, I wake up this morning, I've got work most of the day, but then I want to go out for dinner with my fiance tonight. First thing I'm going to do in the morning is I'm going to either track a rough estimate of what I'm going to have for dinner, or I'm going to leave X amount of calories. And we'll get into that in a second. But the main point I'm trying to make here is plan ahead when possible. Okay. And so you create your own stress and overwhelm if you're trying to do things on the fly all the time, which is why we're running through some of these strategies today. And we'll get stuck into these now. And these are, in my opinion, by far the most beneficial. And the first one is going to be calorie cycling. Now, majority of you guys at the moment are running some form of calorie cycling regime with me. And in its most basic form, there's nothing crazy about it. There's nothing magic. There's nothing special. All we are doing is taking your calorie target. We're removing a certain amount of calories from 6 of the days of the week, and we're adding them all back onto the 7th. Now, this can be done in multiple ways. You could do 2 higher days and 5 lower days. You could do 3 higher days and 4 lower days. Most of the time, I'm going to set someone up with 6 lower days with 1 really high day. Now, firstly, what's the beneficial of this? It allows a lot more flexibility, a better social life. Mentally, it's a great break to have at least once a week where it feels like you're not in a deficit if your goal is fat loss. And physically, in my opinion, it leads to longer adherence, but also it allows us to maintain a healthier metabolism the deeper we go into a calorie deficit. It's inevitable that in time, your metabolism is going to suffer a little bit when you're in a deficit for an extended period of time. So we'll use an easy example because, as most of you would know by now, I'm not great at maths, but that's okay. Let's say that your calorie target is 2,000 calories a day. Just to give you a quick example of how our strategy number 1 is going to work. We're going to remove, so let's say it's Sunday, right? And you're about to go into the coming week, and you're trying to plan ahead for a social event or just a day where you want to utilize calorie cycling. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove 100 to 200 calories from 6 of the next 7 days. So let's go with 200 calories. So now, instead of having 2,000 calories a day for 6 days coming up, I'm going to have 1,800. So I've removed 200 from 6 days. Okay, let's keep the maths very simple here. I have taken 200 from 6 days. So 2 times 6 is 12. We've got 1,200 calories that are now left over to add on to the 7th day, which started at 2,000. And so all we're doing for the first 6 days, we're eating 1,800 calories. Our protein minimum stays the same. Nothing else really changes. And then when we get to day 7, instead of having 2,000 calories, we now have 3,200 calories to use on that day to end up at our same average calorie intake by the end of the week. So there's a significant difference between 1,800 and 3,200. It almost sounds wrong. It sounds like there's no way this can possibly be right, but it is, because our average stays the same. And so you can quite clearly see we have so much flexibility and freedom on that 7th day to, basically go out and have whatever meal you want. But there's a few things you need to keep in mind. Even on the high calorie day, we still need to meet our protein minimum. Ideally, you still want to be choosing healthier options where possible, because we're trying to feel good. We're trying to fill our body with as much nutrients as we can. And the last thing I'll say is that whenever you're in a fat loss phase, we want to aim for high volume, low calorie options. And all that means is that you're eating more food for the same amount of calories. Like if I go out and eat a cheeseburger, which I don't even know how many calories it is, let's say it's 350 calories. A cheeseburger might be 350 calories, which by the time I'm finished it, I could probably eat fucking 5 more of them, right? Whereas if I go and have, let's say I have some beef mince, I have some rice, some vegetables, one meal is about this big and it's gone in about 3 seconds if you're me. The other meal, the rice, the mince, the vegetables, is a massive meal for the same amount of calories. And so that's what I mean by high volume. You are going to be able to eat more food for the same amount of calories, meaning you're going to feel fuller for longer, and it's going to be a hell of a lot more enjoyable experience. So that's our strategy number one. Strategy number two is creating a caloric buffer. Okay. Now, we can kind of do this strategy too in one of two ways. We can create a buffer or we can plan ahead. So we'll go with the plan ahead option first. Let's say I haven't utilized calorie cycling. It gets to Friday and my partner goes, "Hey, let's go out for dinner tonight. We're going to go to Nando's," right? That's a pretty average dinner date, but yeah, fuck it. We'll just stay at Nando's, right? So I'm going to wake up in the morning. I know that I'm going to Nando's that night. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a rough guess at what I want to eat at Nando's. So I might put in my fitness pal. Now, some restaurants will have verified options. Others you'll just have to estimate. If you're going to estimate, always overestimate the calories you think is in that meal, because at least if anything, you are going to be under your intake for the day, not over. But what I'm going to do, go into my fitness pal, grab my phone out, type in Nando's. I might type in a large peri peri chips. I might type in a classic wrap or whatever the hell I'm going to be eating. There's some pretty, you guys just found out my Nando's order. We pretty much fucking pay the bills at Nando's at the moment through Uber Eats, but that's a story for another day. But that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to track those two things into my fitness pal. That's done before I've even started the day. So now I'm working backwards. Okay, I'm reverse engineering for the rest of the day so that by the time I get to that meal, I'm good. It's already tracked. I don't have to worry in the afternoon going, "Oh, fuck, have I left enough? Have I left enough of a caloric buffer for me to go and eat this meal?" It doesn't matter because I've already tracked it. Okay. And so for the rest of the day, I'm making sure I reach my protein minimum. I'm choosing majority of my foods from healthier options. And I'm just working backwards until I get to that last meal where I'm going to have whatever I've plugged in. Could be pizza, burger, steak, pasta, whatever it may be. That also obviously works for lunch as well. The key thing here is that I'm tracking it first. The second way to do strategy two, instead of knowing exactly what you're going to eat, is to create a caloric buffer. Same process. Okay. And so I know that I'm going to go out for lunch or dinner. All I'm going to do is remove a chunk of calories from my target. So we'll use 2000 calories again as our example. And I'm going to go out for pizza this time. And let's say I'm going to allow for quite a big lunch or dinner. I'm going to allow for 900 calories for dinner or lunch. Let's say 1,000 actually. So I'm going to allow for 1,000 calories for that meal. All I'm doing with my fitness pal when I start tracking for the day is instead of 2,000 calories now, I'm aiming for 1,000. Okay. And that's excluding the meal that I'm going to have when I go out. And I'm not even going to track because, guys, here's the thing. I'm not asking you guys to be perfect. You're never going to be. I haven't been perfect with tracking my intake for the last 10 years. And to be perfectly honest, like even when I was competing in bodybuilding, I was getting down to, single digit body fat percentage, looking leaner than I'd ever looked in my whole entire life, still eating ice cream every night or still doing the strategies I'm talking about with you guys now. And so once upon a time, there's no way I would eat these foods and not feel guilty or bad, but it's just unnecessary. You don't need to do that. Like it doesn't matter. We create these beliefs. We listen to the shit in the health and fitness industry to say that you can't lose fat if you have bread or have milk in your coffee, or if you have carbs after dinner, then it's going to convert to fat, or you need to have 5 to 6 small meals throughout the day to stoke your metabolism. Like this is all just bullshit. And we focus on these things that don't matter. And so with my caloric buffer, I've taken 1,000 calories that I'm going to allow for this one meal. And when I go there, I'm not even going to track. Okay. I'm not going to go overboard. I'm still going to try and choose something that's got a good amount of protein, maybe some veggies or salad, but I'm going to enjoy myself. And that's it. And I've allowed for this because I've created the caloric buffer. So that's our strategy number two. This is a really good one and something that I recommend to a lot of people, particularly if it's a last minute thing and you haven't used the calorie cycling for the week. Now, our last strategy, which is the one that I'm not going to say that I'd recommend it the least, but it's probably the least accurate. Doesn't mean that it's not effective. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it's probably the least accurate. And the way that we're going to approach this is if you have a day where it's kind of like, I can't be fuck tracking, and it might be on holidays, right? This is a good approach for when you're on holidays as well. we're not going to use MyFitnessPal at all. We're not going to track the intake at all we are going to do is pick one meal of the day where we kind of eat whatever it is that we want to eat. And we're not going to worry about what's in it, how many carbs, fats, protein, whatever, none of that shit. We're not going to worry about that at all. Outside of that meal, though, every other meal we have for the day is only going to be protein with the addition of a salad or veggie or something like that that's pretty much 0 calorie. And so the purpose of this is that by having protein with every other meal, we're going to be able to stay fuller for longer. We're going to be able to reach our protein minimum. By the time we get to the big meal that we're going to have, we're not going to be absolutely starving. Okay. And a large part of this is the fact that we're very unlikely to eat too many calories for the day if we're only having protein with every meal aside from one. Okay. And so you might have breakfast, lunch, and a snack, and it's all just been protein. So let's say you get to your main meal of the day where you're going to kind of go out and enjoy yourself, have a drink or whatever. You may only be at 600 or 700 calories, if that, by the time you get to that meal. And so when you have your big meal, the chances of you blowing out your intake for the day are kind of minimal to none. And so this can be a great approach in terms of making sure we're staying on track, being able to enjoy yourself, not having to restrict yourself completely, but also not doing your own head in by using MyFitnessPal. Okay. And so MyFitnessPal is a fantastic tool, and I think it's a no-brainer to be at least loosely tracking your intake if you're serious about seeing a body composition result. It's not difficult. I'm not asking you guys to track protein, carbohydrates, and fats, which once upon a time I did, and I did get all of my clients to do that, but it became something that was just a little unnecessary and too stressful. So this is all pretty simple stuff. And so there are 3 strategies, and they're very easy to use. The last thing that I want to mention here is what we do the day after, because I know some people, including myself at one point, had that past experience of feeling guilty, that past experience of then going and doing a shitload of exercise the next day or starving ourselves because we felt bad about the day before. Please don't do that. Okay. Even if we've had a day where we have kind of stuffed up and we've gone over our intake, or we feel like we've overdone it a little bit, all I want you to do the following day is that if you have a training session to do, put the calories to good use and get some PBs in your session, have a great session, utilize the extra energy that you've got. Outside of that, we're going to increase our water intake purely because we're probably going to be holding a little bit of water weight just due to extra sodium and carbohydrates and maybe some extra calories. It's not fat, it's just water weight. Our bodies, particularly if you're a female, can fluctuate plus or minus 2 to 3 kilos just from water weight. And so it's nothing to worry about. We're just going to get back to our normal calorie target intake the next day, making sure we're getting enough protein. We're going to increase our water intake. If we have a training session to do it. If you really feel like doing some form of exercise and you don't have a planned session, just go and do a walk and get out in nature or whatever you need to do, move your body. But do not feel guilty. Like, these are the tools that we are adding to change the beliefs that some people have had around the misinformation on nutrition and getting into great shape. It's not that difficult, guys. Losing fat is not that difficult. Okay. And I'm not saying that because I'm genetically blessed or because I've been in the industry for so long or anything like that. Like, I'm just telling you guys the truth. I'm helping you change your belief. It's not difficult. We just need to find an approach that's suitable, an approach that we can stick to, each one of you can stick to personally, and allows for a normal life. Because if I tell you to do something that you have no intention of doing for long term, you will never stick to it. It's never going to last. And so my approach or my goal with you guys is to have an approach that you enjoy and you can stick to. And these strategies today that I've explained are a piece of piss, and every single one of you can implement these. And I can't fucking wait to hear how effective they all have been for you guys. And if there's any questions, if you're watching this inside our community, please comment below with any questions or feedback from this episode, this call. If you're watching this somewhere else, you can reach out to me personally and ask any questions. Before I go, I am going to offer you guys a little bit of a discount on our supplements at the moment. By no means am I saying you have to buy them. I'm not trying to sound salesy. I'm just trying to give you guys some incentive, or not even incentive. I'm just trying to give you guys a bit of a benefit to working with me using our supplements. This is something that we've worked on for a long time before we launched, and I truly believe in these products, and there's more to come. But for the time being, we're very, very, very happy with the products we have out now. With the hydration, our Hydrate product is probably one of our best selling products at the moment, allowing you to get in the sodium, the potassium, and the hydration you need. We've also got some more back here. I should have brought some in, but we've got the creatine monohydrate, which every single one of you guys should be using every single day at the moment, 5 grams every day. And then, of course, our protein. We're currently out of stock in the vanilla, depending on when you're watching this, but we have our triple choc, which tastes like Milo, the best tasting flavored protein you've ever had, along with our plant protein as well, if you are plant based. And soon to be, we will have a few more products, the choc honeycomb in the protein, salted caramel. We've got greens coming. We've obviously got our pre-workout at the moment as well. But if you guys are out of supplements at the moment and you want to stock up, or if you haven't tried them before, you can use the code DJK20 and that'll get you 20% off, which is the biggest discount that we've given anyone up until this point. Any purchase over $50 is free shipping as well. So I think depending on what you purchase using this code, you should get free shipping either way. But that's enough of that. I just wanted to make sure that you guys can benefit from that if you do need more supplements. The main purpose of today's call and this video is to make sure that you have the tools to keep moving forward, seeing results and feeling comfortable with the approach. So time to go out and use them, guys. Go out and enjoy yourself. Continue to see these results. And I'm looking forward to hearing how you go.